Captain Hyun-woo stared at the three holographic displays floating before him, each one showing a different human colony burning. The orange flames looked almost beautiful against the black space, but he knew those weren't just buildings burning. Those were homes, schools, hospitals. 20 million people had lived on those three worlds just 6 hours ago. "Captain, the casualty reports are coming in from New Seoul," Lieutenant Somin said quietly from her station. Her hands shook slightly as she read the numbers. Preliminary estimates showed it, so they hit the evacuation centers first. The children were still boarding the transport ships when— "I know," Hyun-woo cut her off gently. He had seen the footage. The Kavari warships had targeted the refugee convoys deliberately. It wasn't war. It was extermination. The bridge of the TDS Harmony was unusually quiet. Normally his crew would be chatting, joking, sharing pictures of their families back on Earth. Today everyone worked in silence. They all knew someone on those colonies. Lieutenant Do-yoon's sister had been teaching on Busan Station. Chief Engineer Nari's parents were retired miners on Daegu 7. "Sir," Communications Officer Junho spoke up. "We're getting signals from other colonies. Jeju 3, Gyeongju Station, the farming worlds in the Andromeda sector. They're all requesting immediate military support. Some are already starting to evacuate." Hyun-woo nodded slowly. The Kavari had made their message clear. This wasn't about territory or resources. They wanted humans gone from this sector of space entirely. "Captain," Somin's voice was tense. "Incoming transmission from the Kavari flagship. They're demanding we respond." "Put them through," Hyun-woo said, straightening his uniform. The main screen flickered, and suddenly he was looking at Admiral Kekstar. The Kavari commander was massive, easily 8 feet tall, with blue scales that seemed to shimmer under his ship's lighting. His 4 red eyes were arranged in a diamond pattern on his elongated skull, and when he smiled, rows of needle-sharp teeth gleamed. "Ah, the famous Captain Hyun-woo," Kekstar said in perfect Korean, his voice like grinding stone. "I have studied your species' military records. Very interesting reading. Your rules of engagement are particularly amusing." Behind Kekstar, Hyun-woo could see other Kavari officers examining holographic displays. One showed the complete orbital bombardment patterns they had used on the colonies. Another displayed human military protocols, clearly intercepted from classified communications. "You see, human, we know all about your civilian protection protocols," Kekstar continued, gesturing with one of his 4 arms. "We know about your proportional response doctrine and your minimal force requirements." Such pathetic weakness. No wonder your colonies fell so easily. Lieutenant Do-yoon's fists clenched at his tactical station. "Sir, requesting permission to target their engines. 1 plasma burst and they'll be floating dead in space." "Negative," Hyun-woo said quietly, never taking his eyes off Kekstar. "Admiral, you seem to have misunderstood something important about those protocols." Kekstar's laugh sounded like metal being scraped against concrete. "Misunderstood? We understand perfectly. You are weak. Your species fights with one hand tied behind your back. You care more about your enemy's civilians than your own victory. It makes you soft, predictable, easy to defeat. Those protocols exist for a reason," Hyun-woo said, his voice getting colder. "They weren't created to make us weak. They were created to make sure we never had to show you what we're really capable of." "Empty threats from a dying species," Kekstar sneered. "Your colonies are ash. Your people are refugees. Your military doctrine is the laughingstock of this galaxy. What could you possibly do to the mighty Kavari Empire?" Hyun-woo looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him intently. So-min had tears in her eyes, but her hands were steady on her controls. Do-yoon was running targeting calculations, even though they weren't supposed to fire first. Chief Engineer Nari was quietly preparing the ship's more unusual systems for activation. "Admiral Kekstar," Hyun-woo said slowly, "let me explain something to you. 300 years ago, humanity fought a war that nearly destroyed our homeworld. We learned what happens when we fight without restrictions, when we stop caring about collateral damage, when we decide that winning is more important than what we have to become to win." Kekstar's 4 eyes narrowed. "Ancient history means nothing now, human." "It means everything," Hyun-woo replied, Because after that war we swore we would never fight like that again. Every treaty we signed, every protocol we followed, every time we chose restraint over revenge, it was all to make sure we never had to show the galaxy what monsters we could become. Your restraint proves your weakness. No, Hyunwoo said quietly. Our restraint was our gift to you, and you just threw it away. The transmission ended as Kextar cut the connection, probably to coordinate his next wave of attacks. Hyunwoo stood in the sudden silence of his bridge, feeling the weight of what came next. Communications, he said finally. Get me high command on a secured channel. Authorization code black. Tell them the civilian protection protocols are hereby suspended by emergency order. Lieutenant So-min's hands froze over her controls. Sir, code black hasn't been authorized since the Titan Wars, Hyunwoo. Finished. Since we learned that sometimes being civilized isn't enough, he turned to face his crew. Everyone understand what this means. Once I make this call, there's no going back. The galaxy is about to remember why we built those protocols in the first place. Du-Yoon looked up from his station. Sir, what about the rules of engagement? What rules? Hyunwoo asked coldly. They burned our children, Lieutenant. They targeted our hospitals, our schools, our refugee ships. They wanted total war. He paused, looking at each of his officers in turn. Now they're going to get it. Admiral Seung-ho walked through the corridors of the TSS Incheon, his footsteps echoing off the metal walls. This wasn't just any ship. This was humanity's first true warship, built in secret over 30 years ago, and kept hidden in the dark spaces between stars. Most of the galaxy thought it was just another research vessel. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The command center was buzzing with activity. Officers ran between stations, their faces grim but determined. Red warning lights bathed everything in an ominous glow. These weren't the same cheerful bridge crews from the peaceful exploration ships. These were soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war they hoped would never come. Admiral on deck, someone shouted, but Seung-ho waved them back to work. Status report, he demanded, settling into his command chair. The chair itself was more like a throne, with neural interfaces that connected directly to the ship's quantum brain. When he sat down, streams of data flowed directly into his mind. Commander Ye-jin approached, her tablet glowing with fleet positions. Sir, we have 47 dreadnoughts in position. The Kavari think they're facing our normal patrol fleets, but we've been moving our real warships into position for the past 3 days. What about the new recruits? Seung-ho asked. Half his crews had never seen real combat before. They'd trained on simulators, but this would be their first taste of war without rules. They're nervous but ready, sir. Chief Instructor Sang-woo has been running them through combat drills non-stop. They know what's at stake. Through the massive viewports, Seung-ho could see the other ships in the fleet. They looked nothing like the peaceful vessels humanity usually showed the galaxy. These ships were angular, predatory, covered in weapons that most species couldn't even identify. The TSS Busan looked like a metal shark. The TSS Daegu bristled with missile pods. The TSS Seoul was so covered in armor plating that it looked more like a flying fortress than a spaceship. Sir, Communications Officer Min-jun called out, we're receiving the final authorization codes from Earth Command. Operation Taeguk is officially approved. Seung-ho closed his eyes for a moment. Operation Taeguk was named after the symbol on the Korean flag, representing the balance of opposites. For 3 centuries, humanity had chosen the peaceful path. Now they would show the universe what the other side looked like. All ships, this is Admiral Seung-ho, he spoke into his communicator. His voice was broadcast to every human vessel in the fleet. Today we remove the chains we put on ourselves. Today we show the galaxy why we chose to be peaceful. Not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to choose mercy. He paused, looking at the tactical display showing the Kavari positions. The Kavari Empire has murdered 20 million of our people. They targeted our children, our elderly, our sick. They wanted to see what humanity looks like without mercy. Let's show them. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. Inside the Incheon, the reality around them twisted and warped. Normal space travel took hours or days to cross between star systems. The human quantum drives could tear holes in space itself, moving entire fleets across the galaxy in minutes, dropping out of hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. Reality snapped back into focus, and suddenly they were above Vexthul Prime, the fortress world of the Kavari Empire. The planet was a massive military base, covered in weapon installations and orbital defense platforms. Each platform was the size of a small moon, bristling with plasma cannons that could destroy entire fleets. "My God," whispered Tactical Officer Jinwoo. "Sir, I'm reading over 300 defense platforms. Each one has enough firepower to level a continent." "And they're all targeting us," added Sensor Operator Da-un. "Sir, we're outnumbered 1,000 to 1. Admiral Seung-ho smiled coldly. "Good. Let them see what 47 human warships can do." The Kavari opened fire immediately. Thousands of plasma bolts, each one capable of melting through a mountain, streaked toward the human fleet. The energy discharge was so massive that it lit up the entire system like a second sun. "Incoming fire!" Jinwoo shouted, his voice cracking. "With fear. All ships, activate phase technology," Seung-ho ordered calmly. Chief Engineer Han Yule's fingers danced over her controls. "Phase shields online, Admiral. Quantum displacement fields are stable." The plasma bolts struck the human ships and passed right through them like they were ghosts. The massive energy beams that should have vaporized the entire fleet instead flew harmlessly into empty space. On the Kavari command platform, alarms were screaming. "Impossible," came Admiral Kekstar's voice over the communication channels. "Our weapons passed through them. How are they doing this?" "Sir," Commander Yejin said, her voice filled with grim satisfaction, "the Kavari are trying to recalibrate their weapons. They don't understand that our ships are phasing in and out of their reality." Seung-ho stood up from his command chair. "Time to show them what 300 years of suppressed weapons development looks like. All ships, target the orbital platforms. Fire reality anchors." The front of each human ship opened like a flower, revealing weapons that shouldn't have been possible. Reality anchors were humanity's most closely guarded secret. They didn't just destroy targets, they removed them from existence entirely. "Firing," Han Yule announced. The space around the Kavari defense platforms began to ripple and twist. The massive stations, each one a marvel of alien engineering, started to bend and warp as if space itself was folding around them. Then, one by one, they simply vanished. Not destroyed, not exploded, they just stopped existing. "What is happening?" Kekstar's voice was now filled with panic. "Our platforms are disappearing. This is impossible. Physics does not work this way." Commander Yejin smiled as she targeted the next wave of installations. "Admiral Kekstar, let me explain something to you. Humans have been studying physics for a very long time. We know exactly how it works. The question is, do we choose to follow the rules, or do we choose to rewrite them?" More platforms vanished. The mighty Kavari fleet, which had seemed invincible just moments before, was being erased from existence by weapons that operated on principles beyond their understanding. "This is Admiral Seung-ho to all Kavari forces," he broadcast on all frequencies. "Your empire chose to murder our innocent civilians. You wanted to see humanity without restraint. You wanted to see us fight without mercy. Congratulations, you're getting exactly what you asked for." The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been called within hours of the Vexthul Prime incident. The Great Assembly Hall, built to hold representatives from over 200 species, was packed beyond capacity. Emergency broadcasts were being transmitted to every corner of the galaxy as species after species demanded answers. Ambassador Tai Hyung walked slowly to the center podium, his black diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the colorful array of alien delegates surrounding him. The hall buzzed with dozens of different languages, clicks, whistles, and electronic sounds, as various species tried to make sense of what they had witnessed. Chancellor Vrixtal, the insectoid leader of the council, slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. His compound eyes reflected the light like 1,000 tiny mirrors. "Order! We will have order!" His voice echoed through the chamber's translation systems. The massive holographic display above the assembly showed the footage that had shocked the galaxy. Vexthul Prime, the Kavari Empire's most heavily defended world, had been reduced to nothing more than floating debris in less than an hour. But it wasn't just the destruction that terrified everyone. It was how easily the humans had done it. Ambassador. Tae-hyung, Chancellor Vrixtal's mandibles clicked nervously. Your species has some explaining to do. For 3 centuries, humans have presented themselves as peaceful traders and explorers. Yet we have just witnessed the complete annihilation of the Kavari Empire's strongest fortress, using weapons that should not exist. Tae-hyung looked up at the display, watching the footage of human ships phasing through solid matter and making entire space stations disappear. Honorable delegates, what you witnessed was not our military at full capacity. It was merely the removal of our self-imposed restrictions. A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the assembly. The crystalline delegate from Zerion 7th pulsed, with rapid flashes of anxious blue light. Restrictions? Ambassador, are you saying that humanity has been deliberately limiting its military capabilities? Yes, Tae-hyung replied simply. For over 300 years, every human ship that has entered your space, every colony we have established, every trade agreement we have signed, has been governed by strict protocols designed to prevent exactly what you just saw. The 6-armed delegate from Zephyria Prime gestured wildly with all of his appendages. This is impossible. We have detailed intelligence reports on human military capabilities. Your ships carry basic plasma weapons. Your colonies have standard defensive systems. Your trade vessels are completely unarmed. Tae-hyung smiled sadly. Delegate Threnak, your intelligence reports are correct, but they only show what we chose to reveal. Let me show you something else. He activated his personal hologram projector. The image that appeared showed a standard human cargo ship, the kind that delivered supplies to colonies across the galaxy. Everyone in the chamber recognized the design. They were common, unremarkable vessels. This is the THS Friendship, a cargo ship that has been delivering medical supplies to the Andorian colonies for the past 15 years. Captain Ju Huan and his crew are well known throughout this sector for their humanitarian work. The image shifted, showing the ship's internal structure. What the delegates saw made several of them recoil in horror. The cargo ship was packed with weapon systems, shield generators, and weapon manufacturing facilities that could produce an entire fleet. Every single human cargo ship in the galaxy is actually a disguised battlecruiser, Tae-hyung continued. Every research station is a military outpost. Every peaceful AI assistant is a war machine sophisticated enough to coordinate planetary defense systems. The gas-based delegate from Nepturia 7's voice came through the translation system as a low, rumbling sound. But why? Why hide such capabilities? Why pretend to be weak when you could have ruled the galaxy? Tae-hyung's expression grew darker. Because we learned what happens when humanity fights without restrictions. 3 centuries ago, we nearly destroyed our own homeworld in a war that killed over half our population. We learned that our greatest enemy wasn't alien invaders or cosmic disasters. Our greatest enemy was ourselves. He gestured, and the hologram changed to show ancient footage from Earth's past. The assembled delegates watched in horrified silence as human weapons turned continents into glass, as cities disappeared in bursts of light, as entire regions became uninhabitable wastelands. This is what we were capable of 3 centuries ago, Tae-hyung said quietly. Imagine what we can do now. Chancellor Vrixtal's voice was barely audible. How many ships do you really have, Ambassador? Enough, Tae-hyung replied, but that's not the important question. The important question is, what kind of galaxy do we want to live in? The Thraxian delegate, a reptilian creature with scales that changed color with his emotions, was currently a deep purple indicating extreme fear. Ambassador, are you threatening us? No, Tae-hyung said firmly. I'm explaining why we chose peace over conquest. Every trade agreement we've honored, every diplomatic solution we've pursued, every time we've chosen negotiation over force, it was all to prevent the galaxy from seeing what you witnessed at Vexthul Prime. The elephant-like delegate from Mammoth Prime trumpeted nervously. But the Kavari Empire was one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. They had weapons that could crack planets, fleets that numbered in the thousands. How did you defeat them so easily? Because they never fought the real human military, Tae-hyung explained. They fought our peaceful exploration fleets, our lightly armed colony ships, our research vessels. They never faced our actual war machines because we hoped they would never have to exist. The hologram shifted again, showing the human dreadnought fleet in action. The assembled delegates watched in stunned silence as ships that seemed to exist partially outside normal spacetime dismantled Kavari defenses with weapons that violated known physics. "Those ships were built decades ago," Tae-hyung continued. "We've been hiding them in deep space, hoping we would never need them. The Kavari forced our hand when they chose genocide over diplomacy." Chancellor Vrixtal's compound eyes were focused entirely on the human ambassador. "What happens now, Ambassador? What does humanity want from the rest of us?" Tae-hyung looked around the assembly hall, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. "The same thing we've always wanted: peace, trade, exploration, scientific advancement. The difference is that now you know the true cost of threatening those things," he paused, letting his words sink in. "The Kavari Empire no longer exists because they chose to murder innocent civilians. They mistook our mercy for weakness. They thought our restraint was cowardice. We tried to warn them. We tried to warn all of you." The crystalline delegate pulsed with nervous white light. "And if other species choose to follow the Kavari example, then they will face the same consequences," Tae-hyung said coldly. "Humanity doesn't want to be your rulers. We don't want to be your conquerors. But we will not allow genocide to go unpunished. We will not allow the innocent to be slaughtered while we watch." The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The galaxy had just learned that the peaceful, friendly humans they had known for 3 centuries were actually the most dangerous species in known space, and the only thing that had kept them safe was humanity's own choice to be merciful. The 3 suns of the Kexthulan system cast an eerie red glow across the massive human fleet as they surrounded the Kavari Empire's capital world. Admiral Seung-ho stood on the bridge of the TSS Incheon, watching through the massive viewport as his construction swarms went to work on the remnants of the Kavari defense fleet. The swarms were perhaps humanity's most terrifying creation. Millions of tiny machines, each no bigger than a human fist, moved like metallic clouds through space. They consumed everything in their path, destroyed ships, debris, even asteroids, and reformed the raw materials into new human vessels. What had once been a proud Kavari battleship was now being converted into 3 human destroyers, the process taking less than an hour. "It's like watching metal sharks feeding," whispered Tactical Officer Jinwoo as he observed the swarms through his scope. Communications Officer Minho looked up from his station, his face grim. "Admiral, we're receiving multiple surrender requests from the Kavari High Command. They're asking for immediate ceasefire negotiations." Seung-ho didn't turn away from the viewport. Below them, the planet Kexthulan was a fortress world covered in military installations. Massive gun emplacements dotted its surface like metal mountains. Orbital shipyards that had been building Kavari warships for centuries now sat empty and burning. "Sir," Minho pressed, "how should I respond to their surrender request?" "Tell them it's too late for surrender," Seung-ho said coldly. "They had their chance for mercy when they chose to target our civilian evacuation ships. They wanted total war. Now they have it." Commander Yejin approached with a datapad showing fleet positions across the galaxy. "Admiral, Commander Ji-hoon is reporting from the Core Worlds offensive. 17 Kavari systems have been completely pacified. Their defensive fleets have been eliminated." She paused, looking at the numbers again. "Sir, the reality anchors are working faster than our projections. We estimated it would take weeks to dismantle their military infrastructure. At this rate, we'll be done in days." Seung-ho nodded grimly. The reality anchors were weapons that humanity had hoped never to use. They didn't just destroy targets, they removed them from existence by tearing holes in space-time itself. The Kavari had built their empire on the belief that their weapons were the most powerful in the galaxy. They were learning how wrong they had been. Captain Boram materialized as a hologram next to the command station. She was commanding the TSS Ulsan, leading the assault on the outer Kavari colonies. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender offers from multiple species. The Thraxian Federation is offering complete non-aggression pacts and tribute payments. The Zephyrian Collective is doing the same." "The Thraxians never attacked us," Seung-ho mused, reviewing the intelligence reports. "They stayed neutral throughout this conflict. Accept their offer, we have no quarrel with them. And the Zephyrians, sir? Seung-ho's expression hardened. Didn't they provide intelligence support to the cavalry? Weren't they the ones who helped plan the assault on New Seoul? Boram's hologram nodded. Yes, sir. Our intelligence confirms that Zephyrian agents provided detailed information about our colony defenses. They also supplied the cavalry with our diplomatic communication codes. Then they're complicit in genocide, Seung-ho said flatly. Launch the Omega Protocol against their border worlds. Target military installations and government facilities only. Make it quick and clean. No civilian casualties. The Omega Protocol was humanity's precision strike system. Unlike the reality anchors that simply erase targets from existence, Omega strikes could eliminate specific buildings while leaving everything else untouched. It was surgical warfare on a scale that most species couldn't comprehend. Sir, officer, Gyunji called from her communications station. We're receiving a direct transmission from Emperor Thexcool himself. Sir, he's begging for mercy. The bridge fell silent. Emperor Thexcool had ruled the Kavari Empire for over 2 centuries. He was considered one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, commanding fleets that had conquered dozens of worlds. The idea of him begging was almost unthinkable. Put him through, Seung-ho ordered. The main screen flickered, showing the interior of what had once been the most magnificent throne room in the galaxy. Now it was a smoking ruin. Emperor Thexcool sat on his damaged throne, his blue scales dulled with fear and exhaustion. His 4 eyes, once proud and commanding, now showed only terror. Admiral Seung-ho, the Emperor's voice cracked as he spoke. I request immediate negotiations. The Kavari Empire surrenders unconditionally. Please, we beg for mercy. Seung-ho stared at the alien ruler for a long moment. Around the bridge, his officers watched in silence. This was the being who had ordered the massacre of 20 million human civilians just days ago. Your Majesty, Seung-ho said, his voice devoid of emotion. Mercy was what we showed you for the last 300 years. Every trade agreement we honored, every diplomatic solution we accepted, every time we chose negotiation over force, that was mercy. The Emperor's 4 eyes widened with desperate hope. Then you will accept our surrender. You will spare our worlds. You mistook our mercy for weakness, Seung-ho continued as if the Emperor hadn't spoken. You thought our restraint was cowardice. You believed that because we chose peace, we were incapable of war. Behind the Emperor, Seung-ho could see other Kavari officials cowering in the shadows of the ruined throne room. These were the beings who had celebrated when the human colonies burned. Now they hid behind their leader like frightened children. We tried to warn you, Seung-ho said. We told you that our military protocols existed for a reason. We explained that our rules of engagement were not limitations but safeguards. You chose not to listen. The Emperor fell to his knees, something that would have been unthinkable just a week ago. Please, Admiral, we understand now. We made a terrible mistake. Surely some mercy. The time for mercy ended when you targeted our evacuation ships, Seung-ho cut him off. When you deliberately killed our children, when you chose genocide over negotiation, now you face justice, he gestured to Yunji. Cut the transmission. The screen went dark, leaving the bridge in silence. Outside the viewport, the construction swarms continued their work, converting the remains of the once mighty Kavari fleet into human vessels. The process was almost complete now. Soon, there would be no trace left that the Kavari Empire had ever possessed a navy. Sir, Commander Yejin said quietly, what are your orders for the remaining Kavari worlds? Seung-ho turned back to the tactical display showing the entire Kavari Empire. Red markers indicated worlds that had been pacified. Yellow markers showed worlds currently under assault. Only a handful of green markers remained, representing the last unconquered Kavari systems. Complete the operation, he said simply. Every military installation, every government facility, every weapon that could threaten innocent civilians. Destroy it all. But remember, we are not the Kavari. Civilian populations are to be protected and relocated if necessary. He paused, looking out at the red suns of Kexthulan. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity doesn't fight for conquest or glory. We fight for justice, and justice, once awakened, is absolute. The throne room of Emperor Thexkul had once been the most magnificent chamber in the galaxy. Golden pillars reached toward a crystal dome that showed the stars above. Holographic displays had shown the vast reaches of the Kavari Empire stretching across hundreds of star systems. Now, 3 months after the war began, it was a ruin. Smoke still rose from the shattered remains of the Emperor's ceremonial weapons. The golden pillars were cracked and blackened. The crystal dome had a massive hole in it, where a human precision strike had surgically removed the palace's defense. Systems without harming the structure beneath. Emperor Thexkul knelt on the broken marble floor, his blue scales dulled with defeat. His 4 red eyes, once proud and commanding, now stared at the ground in shame. Around him, the few surviving members of his court cowered in the shadows. These were beings who had once ruled over billions of subjects across dozens of worlds. General Wu Jin of the Terran Enforcement Corps stood before the fallen emperor, his black uniform pristine, despite the destruction around him. The insignia on his chest showed humanity's new role in the galaxy, not as conquerors, but as enforcers of peace. Behind him, 6 Marines in powered armor kept their plasma rifles trained on the remaining Kavari officials. The Marine armor was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. It wasn't just protective gear, it was a complete life support and weapons system that made each soldier into a walking tank. The suits were painted matte black with blue highlights, and their helmet displays glowed with targeting information. "Your Imperial Majesty," General Wu Jin said in perfect Kavari, his pronunciation flawless. The terms of surrender are simple and non-negotiable. He activated a holographic projector, showing the remains of the Kavari Empire. What had once been over 300 star systems was now reduced to 12 agricultural worlds. Every military installation, every weapons factory, every orbital defense platform had been erased from existence. "Complete and permanent disarmament," Wu Jin continued. "War crimes tribunals for every member of your military leadership who participated in the attack on our colonies. Full reparations to be paid to the families of the 20 million civilians. Your forces murdered." The Emperor's voice was barely a whisper. "And in return, your species continues to exist," Wu Jin replied coldly. "Your people will be allowed to live peacefully on their remaining worlds. Your culture and traditions will be preserved. Your children will grow up safe, something you denied to ours." One of the surviving Kavari officials, a military commander, whose scales were marked with battle scars, spoke up. "This is impossible. How did your pathetic species hide such power? Our intelligence services are the best in the galaxy." Ambassador Tae-hyung stepped forward from behind the Marines. His diplomatic uniform was a stark contrast to the military gear around him, but his presence carried just as much authority. "General Korthak, your intelligence services saw exactly what we wanted them to see." He gestured, and the hologram changed to show surveillance footage of human activities over the past 3 centuries. Every trade convoy your spies observed was real. Every peaceful research station your agents investigated was genuine. Every diplomatic negotiation your government participated in was conducted in good faith. The footage showed human cargo ships making regular supply runs, scientists sharing their discoveries with other species, diplomats working tirelessly to prevent conflicts between alien civilizations. But what your intelligence services didn't, Tae-hyung continued, were the weapons factories hidden in asteroid belts, the military shipyards built inside dead moons, the training facilities constructed in the empty spaces between stars. New footage appeared showing the true scope of humanity's hidden military infrastructure. Massive construction facilities that could build entire fleets in weeks. Training centers where soldiers practiced with weapons that could reshape reality itself. Research stations where scientists developed technologies that pushed the boundaries of known physics. Emperor Thexkul looked up at the ambassador with his 4 eyes wide with confusion. "But why hide all this? With such power, you could have ruled the galaxy from the moment you left your homeworld." "Because we learned something that your species never did," Tae-hyung replied sadly. "We learned the difference between power and wisdom. 3 centuries ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself in a war that killed half our population. We discovered that our greatest enemy wasn't alien invaders or natural disasters. Our greatest enemy was our own capacity for destruction. The hologram shifted to show ancient footage from Earth's past. The assembled Kavari watched in horrified silence as human weapons turned continents into glass wastelands, as cities disappeared in nuclear fire, as entire regions became uninhabitable for generations. We built our first interstellar ships, not to conquer the galaxy, but to escape from what we had become, Tai Hyung continued. When we met other species, we made a choice. We would be traders, explorers, scientists, diplomats. We would help build a peaceful galaxy where our children could grow up without fear. General Korthak's scarred scales rippled with disbelief. You chose to be weak when you could have been strong? We chose to be responsible, Tai Hyung corrected. Every treaty we signed, every trade agreement we honored, every time we chose negotiation over force, it was all designed to prevent exactly what you just witnessed. Minister Sujin approached with her datapad glowing, showing a galactic map, covered in new political boundaries. Your empire will serve as an example to future generations. In the past month alone, 67 species have signed the Terran Accords, officially recognizing humanity as the galaxy's peacekeeping force. She pointed to various sectors of the map where human fleets now patrolled. The Thraxian Federation has agreed to reduce their military by 70%. The Zephyrian Collective has disbanded their intelligence services entirely. The Crystal Worlds have opened all their weapons research to human oversight. Every species that considers aggression against innocent civilians will remember what happened to the mighty Kavari Empire, Sujin said firmly. They will remember that the peaceful humans they thought they knew were actually the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, choosing mercy over conquest. As the human delegation prepared to leave the ruined throne room, General Wu Jin paused at the doorway. The Emperor looked up at him with desperate hope in his 4 eyes. General, Thexkul called out, those protocols you mentioned, the ones that held your species back, will they remain in effect? Wu Jin turned back to face the fallen ruler. Your Majesty, as of tomorrow morning, all human military forces will return to standard operating procedures. Our rules of engagement will be reinstated. Our civilian protection protocols will be reactivated. We will once again become the peaceful traders and explorers the galaxy has known for 3 centuries. He paused, letting his words sink in. But now everyone knows what lies beneath those protocols. Now every species in the galaxy understands that our restraint is not weakness, it's a gift we choose to give. The Emperor nodded slowly, finally, understanding the true nature of humanity's power. They hadn't conquered the galaxy through superior weapons or overwhelming force. They had conquered it through the promise that as long as others chose peace, humans would choose restraint. As the human ships lifted off from Kexthulan, their quantum drives humming quietly, the galaxy settled into a new era, an era where peace would be maintained not through balance of power, but through the knowledge that the most dangerous species in known space had chosen to be merciful. In the halls of the Galactic Council, scribes worked through the night to update the official records. The new entry was simple but profound. Note to all future civilizations. When humanity warns you that they are holding back, believe them. Your survival may depend on it. The galaxy had learned that the most terrifying warriors were not those who fought without mercy, but those who possessed ultimate power and chose not to use it. Humanity had spent 3 centuries teaching the universe the value of peace. Now they would spend the next 3 centuries ensuring that lesson was never forgotten. The end.